What's up, everybody? It's your favorite box of parts, favorite nerd, and today we are looking at trailer to the X-Transbots Motormaster. Subsequently, the entire Stunticon set, right? This is on loan to me from Joe S. Shout out to that dude. I will say that he is a brave soul because there's a good chance I'm gonna break something on this. I'm gonna try not to, but it's X-Transbots. There's a lot of flaps. There's these hands of mine. I gotta take some responsibility as well. There's a chance it could happen. He's already broken a couple tabs. I'll try to point those out as we go through because he did go through the steps one time. Let me go ahead and be upfront and crystal clear right away. I will not be doing base mode. It seems to me that that's where the more complicated elements or components of this are. It's for something that I will never use, nor will most of you. If you think that's not true, my advice is stop lying to yourself. But that aside, because it seems like that's where the complicated and risky parts of this transformation are, it will also allow me to save some wear and tear on this thing, which does not belong to me and was entrusted to me. So we will look at it in combine mode, of course, and we will look at it for vehicle mode, and we will talk about it perhaps at length. But in order to do any of that, we got to start with accessories. So I believe that the only thing that he comes with accessory-wise is this face separately. It's hard because of the way that it was packaged to me to necessarily 100% know if any of the stuff that was in the other stuff regarding the accessory kit belongs with this, but I believe that this is it. And I'm also not sure at this point whether or not I'm going to be going through all the accessory kit in this video or make it a separate video. It depends on the length. But it is a screaming face with no paint on the inside of the mouth, which I'm not crazy about. And then we have the metallic red eyes that look great. The sculpt is fine. You know, my kind of opinion on this stuff, a little more of a subtle emotion is greatly appreciated over the extreme emotion. But that's also how I feel about people in my life too. So maybe that's that. He comes with a big old sword. Looks like it does have the metallic black paint on it, which is a nice touch. And it does fold up, and I think you can add it to the trailer or whatever, but we're not going to go into all that because I've already transformed it and forgot to show this part. So, yeah, it's a sword. He'll hold it in typical Masterpiece fashion, pegging into the palm of the hand. It doesn't seem to peg in all the way, or it's a super tight fit, and the kind of thumb gets in the way, but you can, eventually you keep messing with it, and you can make it work. He also comes with this gun. It's very cartoony. You know, people are going to feel however they feel about that. It's not my favorite, but it is very much in the spirit of that. It does look like it has some metallic flecks in it. I'm not sure if that's paint or not, but it looks well enough. I'm sure it can attach to the trailer, but you know the vibes. And this does collapse, and then you have this locking mechanism here. And yeah, it's fine. He will hold it. However, I had the same issues with this that I had with the sword, just as a heads up. Gimmick-wise, he does have a light-up feature where the eyes will light up, and I like how they look like proper eyes. I mean, it's just the bulbs, obviously, but I do kind of dig that. And it's a pretty bright light also, but when you turn it off, you don't have the dead eyes, which is also nice because the metallic red still comes through. So that's the real beauty of this. So let's talk about the trailer. The gray is a flat plastic, the purple is a metallic paint, and the purple looks fantastic. There's some silver painted accents along here, and then there's some silver paint on the wheel of the tires. We also have the struts here so that it can be freestanding, and they will also obviously fold up so that it does not have to freestand. It is very panely. However, I don't think that's a huge issue given what the purpose of it is. You know what I mean? It's like we got to make sacrifices somewhere. I think this is a perfectly acceptable sacrifice to make. This isn't 100% locked in super tight, and like I said, that's because it has been transformed. I think some tabs have broken in the process. I'm not sure how much of that is 100% related to why it's not clean, but that's it. That's the case here. And then we have this bit in the back that opens up, revealing the ramp with the same metallic purple paint done there, which looks beautiful, and it will close up, and theoretically that can look clean too. As you can see, it's a little short there, but there you go. I'm trying to tab that in. I'm not going to push my luck. Yeah, these bits here on the side, this one's obviously not sticking in. Underneath is pretty clean. You can see the black, that looks like metallic paint to me, which looks well done. So yeah, I like this a lot more than I thought I would. And we'll show it with the team, and perhaps that will give you a bit of a reason why. It's kind of hard to get a true opinion of this just kind of, you know, in a vacuum. It will plug into the back of Motormaster. It's a 2-tab system, and this does spin, so it will work. However, it's a tight spin, and where it connects, it's not the greatest connection. So it will work, and it will roll, and it will turn and everything. It works fine. It's just not the greatest connection in the world. And there they are in vehicle mode. And I think the trailer looks awesome. I think it works perfectly, and I think they look fantastic in vehicle mode. But this trailer is huge. But I think it's probably more accurate than what we've gotten in other MP trailers before, and I will illustrate that a bit with this. A comparison with MP10. And if you roll MP10 back, you'll see that MP10, the whole length of MP10 is about the length of the trailer itself. But I think that this trailer is probably a little short, and this one's probably, this seems more accurate to me. But while we're showing off the team, let's go ahead and show them off in robot mode. This is the old footage, obviously, from the gray background. But I still think it looks good. I still think they look good, even though I think Motormaster is like too big for them, and or vice versa. I still think that overall, it pulls off a pretty cohesive look. I think that overall, it still works. And at the end of the day, at the very least, X-Transbots has made a very good set of Stunticons, both in robot mode and in vehicle mode. Let's give it a whirl, shall we? Bring the trailer down, the little back bit. Untab these, where I just showed you how to tab them in. Unlock those quarter portions. Start untabbing this. I'm already meeting resistance, so speaking of quarter portions, I'm going to use a spudger. Every time I use this, people ask me about it. They're available on Amazon. You can get a ton. I bought mine when I got my rock box at TFCon. Lift up these. All right. Let's lift this up, and this up, and this up, and this up. Bend it in the middle, and open up your arm sections, and then we'll work on each one of those. All right, so let's get the arm a bit out of the way, and easy for me to say. And you can start to straighten this, and we gotta, whoa, let me readjust. Let's build the box of the forearm. So this is obviously part of the car, so move that out of the way. Move the hand into position. As for this, it's somewhat intuitive, but just flip all your flaps until it starts collapsing into something compact, and then bring it around so that it makes a box. We're just going to be building boxes. Box builder Bob. And then on the other side, you have the car part. Just spin that until you get the clearance, and flip your flaps down. And I'll be honest with you, I'm not exactly sure. It's got to match up with the car, right? So whichever way that's intended to go, and we'll set that to the side. So here we're doing the same thing, right? Except we have to account for the Menasor head. So there's this black section, that's what you got to work around. If you just untab it and begin to kind of manipulate it, you should be able to get it around fairly easily. It's a lot easier for me to see on this side than it was on the other. Then you can kind of get the arm out of the way so that you can get the head out of the way. The head is on a double hinge. Forgive me if you can't see it. It's not the greatest feeling armature in the world. So, and actually I'm not entirely sure what I'm doing there, so I'm just going to leave that be. And we're going to work on, you guessed it, another box. So, bring your arm down, or your hand down rather. Straighten that out. You can extend this flap here. That'll build your box, right? That's all we're trying to do. Same thing here. So just start collapsing until the box gets built. Spin it around so that it starts to make sense. Bring it around and tab it into location, and it's this big tab there that you're looking to really make contact with. There. On the underside of the trailer, take these panels that are sitting against the brake lights and tuck them around so that they sit flush. You can sit that against too. That'll give you a little bit of space. A lot of these steps here require you to move plastic out of the way, kind of typical X-Transbots shenanigans. So don't be surprised if you have to do that. And the next thing you got to do is get these two flaps, hope you can see that form up that piece to flap around on the inside. In order to do that, you pretty much got to pull the structural elements away so that you can get the clearance. It's just one of those foolish things, but it is what it is. And there you have it. And I forgot a step. So this piece right here, you want to fold that up as well. And once again, same sort of deal. You kind of got to move stuff out of the way in order to get access to it. So move that up as well, because you kind of need this whole section to be fairly compact for the next step. You have to unlock this and bring these little tabs 180 degrees to the other side. And that will allow this to hinge up and over and theoretically bring the wheels out and sit them in. Now you have this piece. If you angle these flaps, this thing, dude, you can get all of this to sort of peg together. So another double hinge. These two tabs here go into two slots there, and then these two pegs go into the kind of corresponding holes as well. Now with this flap, you can separate it, spin it, put it back, and you have the chest, and then you want to bring it down and over. On the drag strip side, you have to maneuver the shoulder pad and then just drop this piece down so that on the side with the purple stripe, you have the clean side. Then you have to get the head up and out of the way so that you can get this knuckle of the head armature up and over this notch so that it will sit inside. Then you want to bring up this flap. As you do, there's a little knob or peg in here. It's like shaped like lock and key. So you bring this up and it will go directly into there. And then you're supposed to turn this. Now, you can also bring that up for just a second. I'll help you. See, I don't know where that goes, to be honest with you. We'll just sit it up there. All right. Now you want to bring this over as well. So you've got to spin it. Oh, dude. 180. And then get it against itself. Then bring your arm flap around. Spin this last flap. And then keep track of that. And bring this piece over and lock that in place. This piece is gonna eventually grab up there. On the other side, you need to kind of do the same thing. Bring this panel around. Keep track of that peg. Bring the head up Once you connect the gray peg to the other side of the head, maneuver the head in and lock it into the top of the piece. All right, so same deal here. We want to bring up our flaps. As we do so, we need to bring out the locking key. Once that's into position, rotate this so that we do in fact lock it. And then we need to maneuver this in just a way that we can get that over. Get it at an angle, so to speak, so that you can tab that in. Flip this one 180 so that you can bring it around. Bring our shoulder around, or our arm around. Lock that into position. Move the arm out of the way. Bring this flap around so that it tabs into the side. Great googa mugga. Bring your arm down. Remember, we want to see the clean side of the shoulder pad, and then get that flap out of your way. Now, to get the shoulder pads somewhat sorted, there's a slider here, and that's the rod it's sliding on. If you slide it to its furthest extent, then you can maneuver this little piece. There is a little gap here where you can swing that around if need be. And then you just kind of push it down against and use this piece to clip it into place. So, same on this side. Slide. Slide over. That door came out a lot better. And push down. And flip up. Open these pieces here. You can also open up the bottom while you're in this placement. That's on both sides. Just untab it. Then we need to spin these pieces here 180 degrees. Then you want to rotate the waist 180. And I can tell you, nothing about this feels good. So use caution. Split the legs. You can get that. Just get all this stuff open. This is the hip skirts. Front, back. Get them out of the way. And then you even have, oh, great googa mugga, more in here. So get them out. Take the thighs up. There's a little piece here. Move that out. And bring the knee down. Bring the lower leg down. Swivel that so that you're looking at the purple. Let me adjust the camera real quick. And then you can take this. I feel like that comes out and around, yeah. And then bring this around and tab it in, and that locks the thighs in place. So make sure you have this extra bit here sorted. We gotta unlock the heel from the calf. And once you've done that, just get this piece out and ready. This piece has to come around, but before that happens, all of this has to come up, come down, spin around with the clowns from out of town. And then that sits together. This piece comes in, and this piece comes in. I don't know if I had that 100% right, but and then this piece comes around and tabs into that tab. The second flap comes up, but they don't meet. They don't meet. Like, they don't marry up. Like, there's a gap, which was throwing me off. And then, or a little outside of frame, but spin the foot around, lower the heel, just rotate the foot so it's in the right place. That should be pretty self-explanatory. All right, so same deal here. We'll go ahead and lower the heel, so that's just there. Let's see, this is the flap that we got to deal with, right? So bring this up and around, fold that towards the middle, this up and around, and actually it's best if that lays flat. That comes up, that sits there. Then you bring your flap around, tab that in, you bring this flap around, come on girl, and tab that in, and make sure your foot is oriented correctly. All right, a little foot action. Bring this down and bring this down, these two pieces here, and then you want to split this foot down the center. And then you want to bring these pieces out, and they fold around to the outside of the foot, and then you tuck these pieces back in. You're gonna wanna go ahead and do that times 2. So bring the black piece down, the purple piece around so that they're sitting parallel. Extend these, they're on sliders. They're tight. Come on. And then you really, all you need to do is get access to these middle pieces, but I mean, I feel like I'm gonna break this thing, bro. And you gotta flip this around and get it on the outside. Same for this. Let's see if we can't. There. Good grief. And then you can tuck these parts in. All right, so you're ready for things to get real silly? Take this thing, spin it out to the side, tuck it back around. Then you collapse this waist here. It's this bar. I just had to push it in, like the bar in further, and keep applying pressure. Then you have this tab here, this flap rather. Bring that out. Bring it down and around. And that needs to tab in to the 4 teeth there. Go ahead and do that for the other side. Sorry if you can't see, I'm doing what I can. Bring it down around. And lock in with the 4 teeth there. On the front thighs, bring this piece up and lock it in on both sides. All right, to get breakdown and Wild Rider on, you're looking for the hubcap and the peg here and the fake wheel. And just work until it works. Once you have it, bring it down, peg in with the fake wheels down here. So there's one. That's gonna have to do for now, I think. You get the idea. So Wild Rider is the same, except more challenging because of the shape of the peg and the shape of the hubcap. So we're just gonna do the best we can and then call it. All right. Time for drag strip. So you wanna kinda go like you're transforming him on undo your unsightly bars here and unpeg the engine block, and then get that. I wonder if you can even start to separate it. You got to unpeg it from these there, and then you can release, supposedly. But yeah, obviously you want to put this back together again, and kind of unfortunate that it's kind of you know, huge gap there in the center of it. You got 2 holes here, you got 2 pegs here, you got 1 peg here, you got 1 hole there. Sounds like a Friday night if you ask me. All right, so we'll put those in and connect that, and that's pretty solid. For the upper arm, bit more involved. So you got 1 hole at the top of this, you have 1 peg here. Then you have these 2 pieces that are spring loaded that have to clip around the wheel bars there. So let's see. And they clip in from the inside out. And then you can kind of collapse the engine block, but you really can't. So that's a bit unsightly, kind of stuck out there in the open. I guess you could have it down, but yeah, I can't get that any further up, so to speak. All right, then dead end, right? So at the waist, and then we need to press the button, which should release. So lower half of the car, we have basically, it's these 2 notches there that grab onto the inside, and then this piece comes down and over, and that tab right there goes into the hole in the waist and locks it into place. And then you have the upper part. We have another spring-loaded system here. That's going to grab on to the inside of the chest, and then you have another tab for the waist. So up and over. We got to take these sections of the side of Motormaster off, tuck them inside of the purple section. I better look at what I'm doing because things are starting to fall apart on me. All right. And then I want to bring these pieces out. Then you have to separate from here. So be careful there. As you do so, bring these flaps out and around, and what am I doing wrong? Cover up your wheels, and I think you have just like this, and I think that's it. Now we've got to undo a lot of what we previously did. So get these flaps up on the rear. I'm actually having a hard time with my midsection staying together anyway, so that might work to my advantage a bit. We have to undo our lock and key here. So you want to rotate that so that the little tabs are up and down. And that'll let you pull this to the side. Oh, now it wants to stick together. Right? And you gotta undo the head. You gotta undo this side. Once you got it all open, flip your wheels out, slide them down on this slider, and flip this piece out as well. Wheels out, slide it down on the slider, flip this out as well. And then you gotta put this guy in. And I think it's this piece here on the top that ends up clipping in underneath the bumper. Oh, you know what? Let's get this trailer hitch in there too. Dude. And once you've got it in there, then you bring everything back and peg it all back in. I'm not going to waste your time with this, but you repeat the same steps that we did to do the sides before. And then the final couple cleanup things, we're going to take our flaps here. There's another flap to flip. And that comes down and it pegs into the back here and into the side. I'm not messing with it. I'm done. My patience is at it's gone. So just do the best you can to get that going. I'll clean it up. We'll take a look at it. And there he is. So let's talk about him. One thing I noticed straight away is the difference in the leg proportions, right? Now, some people are going to like that a lot better. I personally kind of prefer the larger lower leg with the shorter upper leg. I think it gives the illusion of something being bigger than what it is. That's a personal thing, not necessarily an objective thing by any stretch of the imagination. The other thing that I noticed is that he is extremely back heavy. If you in an A stance like this, you're fine, and most people are going to have him in an A stance like this. However, once you get him close, it goes, and part of that could have been solved, I think, with ratchets and the ankle tilts. Now, conversely, you'll have no problem. Let me see if I can do it again. Doing a Michael Jackson moonwalker. Smooth criminal. He'll be able to pull that off. But that's not my favorite thing about him. Secondly, getting the upper body to truly latch into the lower body is an issue. He's also very, like, the color palette. This probably could have used more paint and stuff as opposed to just translucence, just to bring something out. Now, this is all painted. The black is painted with the metallic black. It looks beautiful. But these, like, little designs here, I'm not sure what they were in the cartoon. I'm not that guy. But I think maybe even if they were, like, gray or purple, it would have done something for the aesthetic of this fella. It just ends up looking a little dead here in this middle body. That's all I got. So it's a big fella, so we're going to go through piece by piece. I'll also say, before we get started real quick, that there's a number of things that I couldn't get to go 100%. I couldn't get these to latch into the upper shoulder pauldrons 100%, and the neck piece, I might have one of the kind of armatures low where it should be high, or vice versa. And I couldn't get one of the wheels on breakdown 100% right, but for the most part, I think we're good to go. So for the head, it's a hinge swivel. Now, the swivel works fine. The hinge has a tendency for me to come untabbed, which is an issue that I have when manipulating this guy in general. And also, it's a very limited look up. Now, a look down is more important to me than a look up with a bot this size, but the look down isn't anything to write home about either. Deco-wise, the metallic black looks great, the face looks great, the sculpt looks good, and the metallic eyes look good, so no issues there. For the shoulders, it is basically a universal, but the design of the shoulder does allow for at least 90 degrees. You could probably get more if you start to undo some of the engineering there. And kind of same on this side, right? So that's nice. And the ratchets are pretty strong. So that's nice as well. You also get the 360 movement, and you get a butterfly joint, which is pretty awesome. So I dig that an awful lot. The metallic red that they've painted, it doesn't match, which is fine, but like this matches this enough, and then this matches that enough, and like the transition from this to this to this, it kind of helps hide it. So I'm not even gonna bang them really hard on that, so to speak. Bicep swivel, double jointed elbow That gets you a great range. So no issues there. Fingers swivel. They hinge in out. So that's a nice touch. The thumb is on a swivel and a hinge. So basically a universal. And a secondary hinge as well. And then the fingers are all done kind of in the Zeta style where they hinge at the bottom outward. And then there is the primary hinge at the base knuckle, a secondary and tertiary hinge, I believe, at the second and third knuckle. So completely articulated fingers. You shouldn't have any issue getting any pose out of them that you so desire. All right. So waist swivel. I am reluctant to mess with it too much. And I don't think there's an ab crunch. There's a reverse one, but then it's not controlled. I can tell you. The articulation's the same on the other side. We don't have to go through it because it's oh, you know what I noticed? That the spring clips here are kind of bending my thing there. It's probably because I don't have it quite right, I would guess. All right, so legs. We have hip skirts, right? They will get up and out of the way. Universals, ratcheted, strong ratchets, love to see it. Fully out to the side so you get the full Van Damme. Tensioned forward and back, which is weird, but also look at it, it's holding just fine. Because it is tensioned, we will check the other side. Forgive if you can't see, I promise I will get my arms out of the way. But yep, that holds just fine as well. Alrighty, so knees, single hinge, but gets you 90 degrees. I don't think it should pose an issue whatsoever. And ankles, so you do get a slight ankle tilt down, perhaps too much. You do get a slight ankle tilt forward. You do get a rocker to a crazy degree, but none of it is ratcheted and probably should have been. Also, the gray is not decoed at all, which isn't the worst thing in the world, especially because there's tons of sculpted detail that's done in the lower legs, but it does look good. So that's nice as well. And then there it is from the back. Obviously, stuff comes a little unclean. The great unclean one as you go to mess with it. You know, kind of the cost of doing business sometimes. But yeah, there he is in a nutshell. Size comparison wise, there he is with the DX9. We will be doing a versus of these two. So get ready for that. And looking at them, like, there's things I like about each. There's things I prefer about one over the other, etc., etc. So mixed bag. Interesting though. Looking forward to digging them apart. But size comparison wise, the good news is, at least for me, obviously he is a bit taller, you know. Let's see if I can't give you a more exact kind of example. Right, so, you know, if you look where his horns are in relation to the top of the screen, I'll even angle it up a bit taller. However, standing side by side, I don't think it's that big of a deal, which is good news for me because I plan on getting their defensor. And at least I'll know that he'll fit in kind of well with the rest of the guys. So that is a big plus for me. In person, in hand, I get the allure of this. I understand it now in hand. I haven't up until this point. That doesn't mean I'm in love with it. I'm not. We'll get to that now. Final thoughts wise, let's start with the negatives. The issue really here is fun. There's nothing enjoyable about this. There's nothing fun about it. The process to get to combine mode is a disaster. And I've heard that's nothing compared to the process to get to base mode. Can't vouch for it. I didn't do it, but I've heard it. Getting the cars to stick on, not fun. None of it. Not one single aspect. Articulating it, not fun. Stuff gets in the way. Flaps come unflipped. Stuff comes unpegged. It's not fun. There's nothing enjoyable. There's no single enjoyable aspect to this thing in regard to its function. My other issue is it is back heavy. At least the one I'm looking at. There seems to be a bit of a bell curve regarding certain things with this fella. I've talked to some people about it. Some people don't have an issue with this particular flap or that particular flap or this becoming pegged in or that becoming pegged in. Others have, etc., etc. So there seems to be a bit of a widespread variety of things that kind of plague this. Not to be confused with Plagueis. But he is back heavy, at least on the one I have. I also had a really hard time securing the upper body to the lower lower body, just making that connection really stick. Like I said, I can only vouch for the copy that I'm looking at. Same goes for getting all the wheels to plug in with breakdown. Not the biggest deal in the world. In fact, 2 work well enough, and certainly better than the DX9, but it was an issue getting them all to plug in, and that's for both cars on the legs, to be fair. Lastly, I wish there was a little bit more color breakup on the sword and on the mid portion of the body. It's just an awful lot of metallic black, and unfortunately nothing pops on it. To go one step forward, I do kind of feel like he's a bit broad up top and a bit narrow at the bottom, but we'll get into that perhaps at another time. So that's pretty much my issues here. And I should also mention a couple tabs were broke during the process, not by me. I've actually made it through unscathed so far, knock on wood. But I have noticed some stress marks along the way, so that needs to be noted. That doesn't mean it's all bad, though. In fact, far from it. It displays really well. So things like the metallic paint all over the body, in addition to the feet, plus the metallic paint that they added for the yellow and the red on the arms to kind of seamlessly intertwine the parts forming element with the cars, really does help this thing pop. It really does add something to the display essence. Also, it's pretty well articulated across the board. Also, the arms and legs integrate more solid than what we've seen in the past regarding this style parts forming masterpiece combiner for the Stunticons. It also works extremely well in alt mode. It's probably the best looking Motormaster with trailer in alt mode we've seen so far. It's pretty awesome. I love it. This set, in my mind anyway, is really like a great alt mode set, to be fair, across the board. A lot of paints, a lot of metallic paints, plus the way the trailer looks. Like, they did a really good job with that. It's funny because it kind of carries on the X-Transbots curse. They look good, just don't touch them. That's kind of how I feel about this guy. So if you are that sort of collector where you want it to pose in a particular pose, once it's posed in that particular pose, you are never going to touch it again, and you just want it to look pretty, it will do that for you. If you want much else out of it, it's going to become even less enjoyable than it already is to get it to that point in the first place. Real quick, I want to give a shout out to the channel Transforms Into a Guitar. I was contacted by him, I believe it was him, and said that he did a pretty good review of the transformation of it, so I checked it out because I didn't want to break this dude's stuff, and it was. And I used most of it in getting me through the process, so I want to make sure I shout him out. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Until next time, take care.